I have spent over 130 hours trying to make myself rich in Traveler's Rest. Having achieved that goal and completing a 100% completion review, I felt that it was a great time to finally share with you everything I've learned so you don't have to struggle like I did when I first began my tavern keeping journey. From beginner foundations to maximizing your tavern's endgame potential, let's get started with tip number 1. Adjust your settings. Before we even get to the gameplay, let's first talk about some settings I discovered embarrassingly late. First of all, sprint settings. Instead of holding the shift key to run while you're serving or exploring the area around your tavern, you can actually toggle this setting in the options menu so you can just run by default. I'm not actually sure why this isn't the default option given how important speed is to managing an inn, but here you go. Another setting that you should consider toggling is the camera distance setting. Now, this is going to be based on your preference, but for me, I personally enjoy being able to see more of the screen because not only is it easier on the eyes, it's also more convenient when serving customers. Number 2. Start farming as early as you can. This isn't Stardew Valley where farming is the main focus, nor is farming required since you can technically buy everything you need in the city. However, if you want to progress and make decent profit early, then you should at least have a small patch for your most basic ingredients. Things like hops and grains for brewing, or common veggies like lettuce and tomatoes for cooking can be the difference in how fast you can get to crucial upgrades later on. I would also plant some tea leaves so you'll always be able to serve drinks in the early game while your brewing capabilities are still low. This way, you're not serving well water to your customers all the time. Also, you might have noticed these expensive tree sprouts in the market, and if you're like me, you probably ignored these. Please don't. These might be expensive right now, but once you have multiple of these fruit trees lined up, you'll make your investment back in no time. These are some of the highest quality ingredients you can get early, and they take all season to grow. So the earlier you pick them up, the earlier you can get your returns. Some that I recommend are the nuts because oil from these are used in a ton of recipes. The coconut tree is also amazing as it can be turned into both oil for cooking and fruit juice for drinks. Little note though, tree sprouts like these only appear in the markets every Monday at the Twins, and whatever sprout becomes available is entirely random. So make sure to save up during the weekend so you can at least afford one come Monday. Number 3. Stack buckets. Going back to the well water from earlier, you're going to be going back and forth from your inn to the well to your farm to the well again for the duration of your time in Traveler's Rest. Water is needed for everything in this game, from brewing and cooking all the way to crafting and farming. My advice? Start with 5 to 10 buckets which can be crafted in the crafting bench for a couple of planks, nails, and iron bars. You might feel like it's a large resource investment early on in the game, but I promise you, you're gonna thank me later. Number 4. Understand and focus on reputation. It's basically Traveler's Rest's main progression system, so let's talk about how to maximize it as well as the benefits you get. The way you earn reputation is by providing good service, so this means handling orders quickly, keeping your tavern clean, and handling rude customers. There's also the comfort level, which is tied to how many decor items you have in your dining area and directly affects how much reputation you earn per customer. While it's definitely worth paying attention to, it's not super important at this stage of the game since those decor items can get pretty expensive and other things will give you more immediate value. Instead, I'd like you to focus on providing a variety of food and drink options, which if you did some farming like I suggested earlier in the video, shouldn't be too much of a problem. At reputation level 4, you'll unlock orders from the notice board just outside. These are a great boost early as it's basically a way to instantly sell 20 items all at once, gaining both reputation and gold. Make sure to fulfill them every time you can, as completing all items resets the board, allowing you to do it all over again. At reputation level 5, you'll unlock the distillery, which is another option for brewing alcohol if you need to ramp up production. But more importantly, at this stage of the game, you'd want to grab an enchanted broom from Amos. This is an automatic floor sweeper, and it frees up crucial time during your service so you'd only have to focus on serving your customers and cleaning their tables. A very good investment, especially before you unlock the staff feature at reputation level 6. Speaking of staff, tip number 5. Don't hire staff too early. Look, I know, the idea of being able to delegate your least favorite task to a staff is one of the most appealing features of this game. It allows you to relax and focus on the mechanics that you really like. However, staffs are the biggest money sinks in the entire game, so I would hold off on hiring unless you already have a surplus of earnings. Or at least, until you've got your farm and food production booming and you've set up multiple tables to accommodate more customers. Take things slow, level up your reputation, and only start hiring gradually once you can consistently keep your menu and drinks fully stocked throughout the day. When it comes to hiring staff, first consider which role you personally enjoy. If you're into bartending, grab a waiter. But if you prefer serving customers and cleaning tables, then it's the other way around. As for the bouncer and housekeeper, it's best to hold off on them early on. They simply won't justify their cost this early. Now, if you're still lacking income at this point and need help on which food items to serve, let's head on over to Ryger's Altar and talk about unlocking recipes. Number 6. Which recipes should you prioritize? The best moneymakers in the game, aside from alcohol, are meat items. However, there's really no consistent way to get produce at this stage. You can get turkey meat from the occasional wild turkey, and you can buy meat from the butcher in the city. But for both of those options, it's either inconsistent or very expensive. Instead, we'll focus on vegetable dishes. Going back to my farming recommendations from earlier, if you planted a lot of lettuce and various vegetables, salads are a great option. If you're able to plant some nut trees, recipes that need to be fried are great for you since you'll have a good source of oil. Anything with eggplant is pretty decent, and most recipes with potatoes are easy to make. In addition, if you planted a lot of wheat, bread recipes are a great option as well. Bread with tomato is a great example. If you turn your bread into breadcrumbs, you'll even be able to cook stuff like fried fish, onion rings, and even breaded cutlet for the occasional wild turkey meat. Just make sure to avoid recipes that need ingredients you don't know how to acquire yet, or that need a long list of ingredients that you haven't prepared for. Alright, now that you have a bunch of food and drink items to serve, let's talk about the actual core of this game, the service. In Traveler's Rest, opening your tavern and fulfilling orders in the notice board are the only ways to make money in the game. You can't sell your ingredients to vendors, you can't sell your food to just anybody else. So if you want to make money in this game, for tip number 7, you need to optimize your tavern service. There's a lot of good practices that I've discovered throughout playing this game, so I'm going to share with you a couple of them that made my tavern service easier and significantly faster. First of all, for my daily routine before I even leave the tavern, I make sure all my food items in the kitchen are added to the menu and all taps, including kegs, are filled. So this way, I won't have to deal with refilling them mid-service, nor would I have to serve my customers well water, which makes significantly less money. Once I open my tavern, I would pre-pour drinks up to the maximum amount I can hold, so I won't have to get drinks from the tap every time somebody orders. If you have either a bartender or a waiter, it will make the service significantly easier, but the same concept remains. I can just pass the drinks and handle other stuff like cooking or cleaning. Next are paper towels. Paper towels or corks affect the speed at which tables get dirty. The more of them you have on each table, the slower dirt will accumulate, so you won't have to spend as much time cleaning. If you want to min-max it, I would put about 6 on each of the large tables. If not, then you could also hire a bartender while you do the waitering and clean tables before they even get dirty whenever you're not serving drinks. Lastly, I would make sure that before I go to bed, I would start up a fresh batch of food and drinks in the kitchen to cook, malt, and brew overnight, so there's always stuff to put in the menu when morning comes. Alright, those previous tips cover the crucial foundation for making your life in Traveler's Rest easier. These next few ones are all about transitioning to the mid-game as you start to think about ramping up your tavern's production. Number 8. Hoard resources. With the game being in early access, I've noticed that there's a lot of things progression-wise that still needs quite a bit of tweaking. One of these is on the crafting side of things, which we will cover extensively in a bit. The problem with it, in my opinion, is number 1, you go from not needing certain things to needing a huge bulk of them overnight once you unlock certain features. And with the game still lacking resource gathering areas and tool upgrades, pretty much the only way you can get a huge amount of these is by including gathering in your daily routine. If you made the mistake of ignoring stone, coal, iron, or copper just because you don't need them yet, you're gonna find yourself in a position where you need X amount, but you'd need to gather for weeks in-game, resulting in huge progress delays. My advice, at least get every resource around your tavern every single day, even if you don't know what they're used for yet. You're gonna thank me later once you need to use multiple stacks of a given item and you already have them ready in a chest. As for wood, as long as you plant sprouts from the trees that you chop, you'll always have them available. Now, while we're on the topic of resources, I might as well share with you my foraging tips. So for tip number 9, here's what to keep an eye on when foraging. On the north side of the tavern, aside from various mining nodes, there's actually a couple of fruit trees here that can be harvested once they're mature. I would also keep an eye out for mushrooms near the cave on both the ground and the walls, as well as wild herbs and aromatic plants, both of which can be used or turned into various spices for cooking. South of the tavern, there's more of the same, but if you head on over to Buzz's farm and across the bridge left of his house, you'll find not only herbs, plants, and mining nodes like back on the north side, but there's even more fruit trees, including a couple of berry bushes which can also be harvested. There's even more near Bob the Golem, and if you go to this hidden path, you'll be able to reach this one up on the cliffs. Lastly, down by the beach is the best area for foraging. In the previous areas, wild turkey can spawn for meat, but here, various species of crabs can be acquired just by hitting them with a broom whenever you encounter them. Not to mention that surrounding the area, there are multiple coconut trees, a couple of bananas behind Wilson's home, and if you check near the rocks, sometimes there would even be shellfish free for the taking for some seafood recipes. And pay attention to X marks, as you can use your shovel to dig them up and get a random loot drop. Sometimes useful, sometimes not so much. For the 10th and final beginner tip, since we're on the beach, let's talk about fishing. One of the easiest ways to gain ingredients in the game. You can unlock fishing by going to the docks and talking to Hickory, who will be a little abrasive in the beginning. I don't remember exactly how long, but just keep talking to her every day and eventually she will apologize and give you your first fishing rod as well as an assortment of baits. The way fishing works in this game is a little different compared to similar games. Aside from certain fishes being available only in certain seasons, fishes are also divided by freshwater and saltwater sources as well as bait category. So different baits can only attract certain types of fishes on certain bodies of water and it changes every season. Larvae, which can be acquired while chopping trees, are the most common type of bait. Earthworms can have a chance of dropping whenever you dig egg spots, and lures can be brought directly from Hickory. If you end up enjoying fishing in the game, I would recommend getting a tackle table from Hickory as well. This will allow you to craft baits such as meat bait to attract carnivorous fish, and also seafood bait, which are really easy to craft. You can use your cheap shellfish here to have an infinite source of baits. Finally, fish traps are also craftable, although they are limited to 2 uses only. One more thing, you're gonna get a lot of junk. Don't throw them away, just keep them stashed in a chest somewhere as you will need a lot of them later on in the game. But before we continue, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, GAMIVO.com. As gamers in today's economy, I know that a lot of us are struggling a little bit with the rising prices of literally everything. But thankfully, for games at least, GAMIVO has us covered. GAMIVO has a giant catalog of discounted games for all the major platforms, and most importantly, for you viewers of the channel, you'll get an exclusive 5% discount code if you take advantage through the link down below. Just click the link in the description or the comment section of this video, pick any game you want, and on the checkout page, make sure to type in code Kaganath to get 5% off of your order. You get cheaper games and you also support the channel. Very cool. In addition, if you want exclusive daily or monthly discounts and VIP access to a 24/7 live chat with our support team, go ahead and sign up for GAMIVO Smart. It comes with everything I mentioned, plus pre-order priority and a free customer protection program. All of that for only about $1 a month. They're also verified in Trustpilot, having amazing reviews so you know that your purchases are protected. So if you want to get your favorite games at discounted prices and support this channel at the same time, head on over there with the link down below and make sure not to miss out on the 5% discount with code Kaganath. Let's get back to the video. Now we're moving on to the intermediate tips. If you got to the point where you're past the basics and are starting to look into expanding your tavern, then these are for you. Number 11, organize your storage. You're about to get a lot of items during this stage of the game, and the earlier you organize them, the less hassle you'll have to deal with later on. First, if you haven't yet, make sure that your chests are actually within the crafting room boundary, which is this line here. This makes it so that when you interact with a kitchen appliance, it pulls from all the chests in the area. You don't really need a full-on storage room just yet like what I have, but it's good to separate certain types of ingredients so it's easy and quick to deposit whenever you're working in the kitchen. You can even categorize them by color for convenience. The same goes for the workshop outside your tavern, although for these, the boundary is the square that you see when placing a workshop area. Quick bonus tip, for crafting, put everything in a single chest. And then whenever you need to craft at a specific workshop, you can just hit B for build mode and then move the chest to the workshop you're using without moving your character. So this way, every workshop has convenient access to all crafting materials. While we're on the topic of crafting, I think it's a great idea to talk about which recipes to prioritize as well as some best practices. So for number 12, here are my recommended crafting recipes and best practices. Hopefully you followed my advice earlier about hoarding resources because you're going to need a mountain of them at this stage. Some of the crafting recipes I'd recommend are all about ramping up your brewing production, as most of your income does come from serving drinks. Now, to get that done, we're gonna need the recipe for an aging barrel, which can be brought from Amos, as well as barrel support stands so we can fit as many barrels as possible in the cellar. Aging your alcohol to grand reserve before serving them is one of the best ways to make money. However, aging takes a long time, which is why we want to age as many drinks as we can so we can have a huge stock of grand reserve drinks. And obviously, if you haven't yet, go ahead and buy the basic stuff like large benches and tables, but I would avoid decoration recipes for now. We'll get back to it later. Another recipe that I would recommend is for tip number 13. Buy the recipe for the apiary so you can start your beekeeping business. Hopefully you've collected a bunch of queen bees at this point from chopping wood, as wax and honey from these apiaries are very useful. Wax is used for making candles, but more importantly, honey is used for various food recipes as well as mead, which is an easy drink to mass produce. It only requires honey, wine yeast, a bucket of water, and wild herbs. Lastly, regarding crafting recipes, I would also buy every single one that provides a buff to the workshop area. So this means the coal, firewood, plank, and block stockpiles, as well as the foraging tank. And that is because, number 14, crafting buffs can stack. That's right, each of these crafting recipes that I mentioned provides buff that either increase the output of your workshop, decrease crafting material costs, or give crafting time reductions. Now, as far as we know, there's no limit to how many times these can stack, only on how many you can fit in a single crafting area. Now that we're done with crafting, let's go back to farming because now you can unlock irrigation. Number 15, expand your farm as soon as you can get basic irrigation. Now that your workshop area is ready for production and you've got a bunch of resources on hand, you can finally buy the basic irrigation recipe from Petra over by the blacksmith. These basic irrigations can be placed on a tilled 3x3 area and can water 5 crops at the same time. All you have to do is refill them once every couple of days, and farming becomes semi-automatic, saving you a lot of time and allowing you to level up your food production. Alright, now let's move forward to staff management tips. At this point, money is not as much of an issue as it was back in the early game, so we now have the luxury of hiring a full staff, allowing your tavern to run on autopilot. So for number 16, here are my staff hiring tips and best practices. For those who don't know, the reason why you can essentially leave your tavern and do other things once you have a full staff is because of the bouncer. The bouncer has 2 jobs: keeping customers in line as well as making sure that your other staff members aren't taking excessively long breaks. If you're present in the tavern, you can easily manage staff breaks by interacting with them when you see their break icon. But if you're away, staff taking long breaks, especially your bartender, can massively lower your reputation and income as no food or drink gets served. So with that in mind, here are my perk recommendations for what to keep an eye on when hiring your staff. First of all, for the bouncer, avoid the negative perks lazy or pause for meals at any cost. If your bouncer is the one who takes long breaks, nobody's gonna supervise the rest of your staff. The good thing though is that once you have a bouncer that can actually manage your tavern, then these specific negative perks on your other staff won't really matter as the bouncer will supervise them. Other negative perks to generally avoid are any that make staff waste orders or directly impact your income. This includes anything that says chance of not charging, chance of wasting food or drinks, or straight up percentage loss on menu item pricing. These are really bad as they directly affect profit. On the flip side, negative perks like clumsy, which increases the chance of floor stains, are basically a non-issue because your enchanted broom can handle the cleaning for you. As for positive perks, when you're still needing money, the low-cost perk, which decreases employee wage up to 25%, is massive. If you have this on each of your staff, that's 25% off of your operating cost as a whole. I would also take perks that increases the price of the most common dish types or drinks that you serve, as again, that's straight up more income. Traits like light-footed, which increases individual movement speed up to 40%, combined with the supervisor perk, which increases it for up to 20% for all staff, are extremely good because faster service equals better reputation and more money in your pocket. Finally, some positive perks that might initially seem good but are actually mid are something like Sales Savant, which increases the chances of customers buying the most expensive product. For me, the plan is to sell everything on the menu anyway, so the order in which the items get sold doesn't really matter. Now, obviously, I couldn't talk about every single perk, but hopefully you get the gist of what makes the biggest impact in your progress. Tip number 17. Don't forget to level up your staff. Now that you know all about perks, please don't be one of the many people I've seen who forgot to level up their staff. Staff level up and gain skill points in this game, but you'd have to manually select which perks to level up for it to take effect. And don't hesitate to replace older staff if you find new recruits on the notice board with better potential. As your reputation grows, your tavern will attract more skilled people. Lastly, for staff-related tips, number 18, track your expenses. Staff wages are the biggest money sink in the game and most people don't even notice it. So go to your inventory, click the Tavern tab, and look at the numbers of exactly how much you're spending on wages and adjust accordingly. You don't need to have the low-cost perk on every staff as long as you can keep your overall staff expenses low. I see a lot of people recommending that 30% of your income should go to wages, but if you can go lower than that, then that'd be even better. Moving forward. Similar to staff perk points, the player character gains their own skill points as well when leveling. So for tip number 19, let's talk all about skill points. The way you earn skill points is strictly through leveling. They're pretty hard to come by, so make sure to plan in advance as to what type of playstyle you want to have. Here's my quick overview, starting with the resources skill tree, which is the least useful in my opinion. Many skills here are related to getting additional bonus whenever you gather, but the thing is, if you followed my advice from earlier, you're already going to be in a great position resource-wise. The other skill trees provide way more upfront value in my opinion. The only exception would be the light feet skill, which increases your personal movement speed. Getting this skill is the equivalent of getting a horse mount in Stardew Valley, so I highly recommend it. Moving on to the crafting skill tree, the top side is not really useful to me. It increases your crafting speed in the workshops, but honestly, I never really found crafting speed to be a bottleneck in my progression. Not to mention that there's an easier and faster way to do that, which I'll share in a later tip. The rest of the skills in this tree are all about making more money from specific types of dishes or drinks. If you end up finding yourself in a playthrough where you're hyper-specialized in specific cuisines, then sure, get those skills. But if you're like me who has a diversified menu, then spending 10 skill points in this tree is not economical. I would suggest prioritizing the management skill tree instead because there's way more skills here that not only saves and makes you more money, but also increases reputation. Starting from the top branch, select customers is a really good way to boost your reputation gain whenever there are VIPs. One of the best ways to gain a lot of reputation in a short amount of time. Just below it, home delivery, which increases mail order earnings, is recommended early on, but it falls off later in the game. Beyond that, the last two skills on this branch are must-haves. Trusted Boss increases your staff leveling speed, so this accelerates your progress in getting full S-tier quality staff, saving you a lot of time and money in the long run. As for good working environment, it decreases staff wages by 10%. That's 10% of your staff cost back in your pocket. Moving on to the second branch, good management is insane when it comes to increasing your food production. The more food you produce, the more you can sell. Plus the two adjacent skills increase your reputation gain by 5% day and night. The bottom branch isn't an early priority as it's all related to construction and room rentals. However, when you do start getting into those features, these skills become crucial. The only skill I wouldn't take here is receptionist. In theory, 10% more from haggling sounds nice, but your housekeeper will typically handle the reception table most of the time. Instead, I'd put any remaining skill points into high priority skills like maxing out good management and light feet to start. Finally, to finish up on the intermediate tips, number 20. Be careful with expanding your tavern through construction. The construction table and room rental feature are introduced at reputation level 7, but the game doesn't tell you how much investment they truly need before they yield anything meaningful. After the tutorial, I suggest ignoring these features for now, as tackling them too early can set you back for a long time in-game. For reference, each room rental cost about 12 gold to make just on floor tiles alone, and then you'd have to buy furniture to accommodate guest needs. If you're into decorating and want to make it look nice instead of a prison cell, the cost will add up very quickly. 100 gold is not a lot of money when it comes to doing construction in this game. Not to mention, if you want to change your tavern's layout and make it look good, oh boy, be ready to save up a couple hundred more gold. So before we tackle all of that, let's move forward to the final section of this tips and tricks video. Number 21, before tackling construction, expand your food production capability. At this stage of the game, you should have a decent amount of gold that we can use as an investment. Hopefully you didn't throw it into a rental or a bunch of decorations just yet, because the next step is all about expanding the kitchen. We can use the construction table if you need space, but generally the idea is to have multiple kitchen appliances, more ovens, food prep tables, and multi-machines to double or triple your food production. This expansion also extends to your cellar. If you haven't yet, it's time to fill up every single corner, maybe even add drying racks for some kimchi and pickled vegetables. All of this production expansion is crucial because to tackle the end game, you're gonna need a lot of money. The goal is to have an efficient and sustainable food production system so that your menu, kegs, and taps are always full with expensive items ready for order. Number 22. Start animal husbandry. It's time to tackle one of the biggest projects in the game, working your way towards having fully upgraded chicken coops and a barn. This is gonna cost you a lot of money and even more resources, so again, hopefully you saved up. What you get here are not only a consistent source of animal produce like eggs and milk, but once they're fully grown, you can slaughter the animals for a huge amount of kinda renewable meat. Buying animals from Holly at Buzz's farm, raising them, collecting produce, and then slaughtering once they're mature is incredibly cheap. Plus, the food items you can make from these animals are typically on the expensive side, so it's an overall nice boost to your income. Now, for some advice on taking care of these animals, first, buy a forage table. This lets you craft food for your coop and barn instead of buying from Holly. When it comes to feed, for chickens, the cheapest option for a seed mix is to buy carrot seeds from the twins. For cows and sheep, simply cut grass to get hay. As for pigs, you can feed them leftovers which are crafted from any food item, but I recommend using porridge to keep costs as low as possible. Lastly, put up fencing because like in other cozy games, animals wandering around will get in your way at some point, especially when you're placing buildings. So keep them in one area to avoid the hassle. Number 23. If you're struggling with material costs, expand your workshop area. This is the reason why I said earlier that spending skill points on the resource skill tree is not worth it. Because not only can the buffs from the stockpiles be stacked, but there's really no limit aside from space as to how many of these workshops you can make. For example, here's my workshop area. I got 2 of each, and this is more than enough to produce whatever I need in a very short amount of time, even in the end game. Number 24. Here's how to maximize your room rentals. This is one of my favorite features in the game, and for most people, having the maximum amount of fully decorated room rentals is the current endgame goal. Since you can only have 8 rooms and they come at a significant cost, let's focus on maximizing earnings from every single one. The first thing you'll need to figure out is how large the room should be. In the tutorial, it's gonna teach you how to make an 11 floor space room, which is actually terrible because the price of rentals are directly tied to how large the room is and how high their comfort levels are. Beyond just the room's size and comfort, another crucial thing to keep an eye on are guest requests. Sometimes customers will ask for rooms of a specific size or comfort level, and depending on what you provide, their payment can actually go up or down. As for recommended room size, I'm getting mixed reports of people getting a maximum request of 21 to 24 floor tiles for a single room. I haven't confirmed the exact number for myself, but if this is the case, then it's a good idea to make rooms with 24 tiles. For reference, this room that I'm showcasing is a 25 tile room and has sold on occasion for up to 4 gold. Now, let's talk about the room requirements for a room to actually be rentable. You're gonna need a table, a chair, a bed, and a light source. The rest is self-explanatory, but if you want to save a couple of silvers per day, avoid using the candle as the light source because then you or your housekeeper would need to refill it every single day, driving up cost. Instead, you can either place a lantern, a wall torch, or even an empty fireplace, which looks cool and increases comfort greatly by the way, so none of the light sources need to be relit. Braziers and regular ground torches don't count in fulfilling this requirement for some reason, so avoid using those. Lastly, for room rentals, number 25, how to get free decorations. We're now entering the topic of raising comfort levels. Comfort levels affect both room rentals as well as the reputation you gain in the dining area from regular service. So the tips here are blanket tips that apply to both cases. If you're low on money because you just crafted a 24 tile room, or maybe you just renovated your tavern's layout, then an easy way to acquire decorations for you would be through crafting. Thankfully, we've expanded our workshop area, so this shouldn't take you too long. Buy the decoration recipes from the city and get to crafting. Again, if you followed our tips from earlier in the video, you should already have the resources for this. Another option you have is if you've continuously been digging the X marks from the time you started the game, then you should also have a decent stock of ancient fragments, etched stones, and maybe even a couple of fossilized remains. These are used in the artifacts table to craft some very cool looking, ancient themed decorations with decent comfort levels. You can unlock the artifact table by digging the X marks, acquiring the recipe, and then going to Woody to buy the actual crafting table. Number 26, convert your junk items. Another tip for extra decorations is if you saved up all of the junk items you got from fishing, you can actually go to Wilson's house over by the beach, interact with his massive junk pile, and that will convert your regular trash items into Wilson seals. These seals can then be used as currency to buy really beautiful sea-themed decorations from Wilson that will give you very high comfort levels. If you're lacking junk items, the best way to earn them is either by manually fishing, where you have a small chance of getting junk instead of fish, or buying the tackle table from Hickory and crafting fish traps. You can fill the beach with these fish traps and they have a chance of catching junk. If you want to min-max junk fishing, switch back to the battered fishing rod to increase your chances of getting junk items. Number 27. If you're still struggling with gold at this point, focus on maximizing occupancy. This is insane once you realize how much it affects your income. As I mentioned earlier, the amount you earn in this game is tied to how many customers you can serve in a day, and how many customers your tavern serves is tied to the maximum occupancy stat, which is increased by gathering reputation. Just because you added more tables doesn't mean that those tables will be filled. Enter the popular staff perk. This is perhaps one of the best perks in the entire game for your employees. What this does is that at level 1, it increases your maximum occupancy by 1, but by level 5, that jumps to 5 people per staff member. When you factor in a full staff, each with a level 5 popular perk, plus the extra occupancy from customer satisfaction, you can literally go from 30 to over 60 maximum occupancy whenever your tavern is open. It essentially doubles the amount I earn every single day. Number 28, get your pets. So, the Pet Party update is the most recent update as of the recording of this video, and it added a dedicated pet shop in the city. You don't visit it in the tutorial, so a lot of people tend to miss it, but if you keep coming back here, you'll eventually unlock a story quest helping the owners. Completing this quest will reward you with your very own dog, which is not only cute, but also has the ability to find extra dig spots for you. Very cool. Other benefits of the pet shop include a pet-themed furniture shop as well as the pet adoption sign, which you can place in your tavern for some easy reputation gain. Another pet you might have missed is the bird pet. To acquire this, you'd have to wait for Wednesdays and Thursdays, head south of the tavern after 7 p.m. in the evening, and follow this hidden path. You'll then meet Crowley, who will be able to sell you an egg. Just put the egg in your inventory until it hatches, and when it does, place it like furniture on a bird perch and you'll have your very own pet bird. What's cool is that the bird has the ability to give you passive reputation gains, but you're gonna have to train it by feeding it bird crackers whenever it says something positive and ignoring it when it says anything bad. Eventually, it'll just keep on saying positive things, giving you tiny amounts of reputation throughout the day, even when you're away. Tip number 29, let's talk tavern design tips. Just to put it out there, I am by no means a design expert. A lot of the things I've learned when it comes to designing in this game are from other more talented people who have posted their designs in the Traveler's Rest subreddit. So if you're looking for inspiration, definitely check that place out. As for design tips, the most important if you want to have a unique looking tavern is to play around with the layout. This can be a little difficult because there are some things that cannot be moved: the cellar door, the entrance, and the staircase. But that doesn't mean that you can't move the walls around it, which can be the difference between having an average looking tavern to one with a unique look. In my case, I pushed the bar all the way back to align with the cellar, and that gave me this huge vertical space instead of the usual horizontal one as my dining area. Another tip that I learned from the subreddit is about placing decorations. If you're into decorating, you know how quickly time flies in this game. To avoid missing VIP visits or your daily chores while designing, then what you can do is place your decorations on the tavern floor, enter the construction table's building mode, and then hit B on your keyboard. This lets you place and move decorations around without the in-game time passing. If you guys do end up getting into the designing aspect of this game, please share your awesome taverns on the subreddit. I'd love to see what awesome taverns you guys can come up with as well. Finally, tip number 30. Stop rushing. The game is still in early access. Alright, this should have been said in the beginning, but we have to remember that Traveler's Rest is still in active development. There's a lot of things missing in this game, like the story, various locations, characters, and even more features that will make this game feel truly alive. So really, there's not a lot of reason to rush because the fun of this cozy game is in the journey. The day-to-day of slow progress, being able to renovate your kitchen, finally acquiring your first chicken coop, affording your full staff for the first time. Cozy games are meant to be cozy and relaxing, not metagamed and rush. So take your time and take a break when you need to. If you'd like to support the content, please feel free to join either the Patreon or the YouTube membership for exclusive content, shoutouts at the end of the video, and early access to every single one I make. Otherwise, a simple like and subscribe are more than enough to help. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.